Hey everybody, Nate Harrington, Griffin Hardy with you.
Hello.
This morning, right around 11 o'clock. You just watched, if you've been watching us on Facebook Live, you just watched the latest briefing from Lee County, and obviously still the recovery efforts ongoing there. And the good news is, I guess, out of what we've seen so far, is that everyone's been accounted for. So the death toll will stay at 23 people. It's unfortunate, obviously, but everyone that was missing has now been accounted for. So at least a little bit of good news there. And we'll let some folks sound on here, and we'll talk a little bit about another risk of severe storms this weekend.
Yeah, this is the third weekend in a row that we've had a chance of severe weather in the region as a whole, and that really is just a coincidence that it's happening on weekends, just that type of pattern. But yeah, third time in a row that we've had it on a weekend, and overall, the risk area with this event is pretty large. I mean, this covers really from Alabama all the way up to like southern Illinois, western Texas, but we'll get into the specifics on that in just a couple minutes.
Sure. And this kind of is a continuance of, hello Sherry, how are you? This is kind of a continuance of just the very wet pattern that we had over the winter. We had unprecedented rainfall amounts, no record-breaking, but some really heavy rain in some particular events, and we just didn't have the other dynamics in place for severe weather. Now we do, and it's this continuing El Nino pattern that's been wet and kind of dynamic here for the last 3 weeks, and that's basically caused our severe weather threat to go up now that we have a little bit more unstable air moving in, and obviously you got the triggers as these big cold fronts move in, upper level disturbances too. So let's get into what we've got going on outside right now, and that is some clouds that have been moving in. We've seen nothing but sunshine here for the last couple of days. It's been really nice.
Yep.
However, a little bit on the cool side, and now we've got some clouds that are moving in now to the viewing area, kind of cutting us in half. Basically right near the I-65 corridor, you've got some clouds there, and then thank goodness temperatures are in the 50s today.
I know, this is a nice relief. It's been in the 20s the past couple of mornings, but now that the winds are starting to turn to the south, we're having more warm, moist air come off the Gulf, so the pattern's kind of shifting, so tomorrow morning won't be nearly as cold as the past couple of mornings, upper 40s for our lows, more than likely.
And unfortunately, that's kind of what we had. Remember 2 weeks ago, we had the warm, moist air, the unstable air already in place once the cold front moved in.
For a couple of days.
Last week was different. We had a cold front move through. We thought was going to lift as a warm front, never really made it to our neck of the woods. That's why it was just a rain event for us. So this is a different sort of setup than what we had last week, but similar, some flavors to it, similar to what we had 2 weeks ago.
Right. So, yeah, like you said, this past weekend, the warm front basically stopped. Right once it got to our southern counties.
I-85, basically.
Yeah, it got to, basically stops just shy of Clanton and Alexander City that you see there on the map. But whereas this case, the warm front's going to be much farther north. We're talking like the Ohio River Valley. So that's why a lot of people are within that severe weather risk area, which is massive for this event. But that doesn't mean everybody's going to see severe storms.
Exactly right. And that's what we'll get to, guys. Joseph and Idaline and Gary and Favored Jacks. I don't know if that's your real name. Interesting if it is. Nikaruka. Hopefully I pronounced that right. That's probably butchering of your name. I apologize for that. But we'll get into who has the best chances for severe storms actually right now. So our severe risk for Saturday, like Griffin says, covers a big area. And I think the locations it's covering for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we're still 3 days out.
Exactly.
And number two, timing is going to be everything with this system, and really where the location of a couple of different factors are going to be. So right now, 3 days away, day one being today, day 3 being Saturday, there are still some things to iron out. So that's why this area of risk, this slight risk, is so large.
Yeah, and which looks scary. I know it means it's that's a really big area to look at, but that doesn't mean that everybody's going to see severe storms, because there are still specific details to the forecast that are going to determine where exactly the strongest storms form, and that's why it's so broad right now. This will be, kind of narrowed down over the next couple of days.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. This will be a much smaller area. Probably tomorrow morning, I would think, this would be a much smaller area that we talk about who has the greatest risk. But right now, basically all of central Alabama has at least some risk, a marginal risk farther to the east, but basically that slight risk, which is the second of 5 risk categories. Now, last week, a lot of the places that saw some nasty weather were under that slight risk, so it can still happen. 2 weeks ago, we were under a slight risk, and we still saw some places that had tornadoes and damaging winds. So it's a possibility that these kind of things happen. So number one, timing. It looks like right now, and this is kind of a rough estimate, afternoon, we're talking probably 1 to 2 o'clock through the overnight. Now, if things shake out how it looks like they might, this could be a couple of different waves. This could be supercell thunderstorms in the afternoon and then a cold front that moves in after that. Of course, there's still a lot to look at before that ever happens. What would be possible if this was to shake out would be tornadoes, damaging winds, small hail. Basically, every sort of severe weather mode would be on the table. But let's talk about some of those limiting factors, Griffin. And basically what that main limiting factor would be is where not only a upper level low is located, but also a surface low that's dragging a cold front.
Yeah, and you'll see it show up here on the map a second. This first low that you see popping up here with the warm front, this is not going to be the one that actually produces the storms. This is just going to be out ahead of our main system, which should start coming into the picture on Saturday. But for really tomorrow, it's going to be just kind of a mishmash with just kind of hit and miss showers and cloudy most of the day. Not really concerned about tomorrow, just going to be your run-of-the-mill showers. But then we go into Friday night, you see more moisture coming up from the Gulf, especially farther west, so the rain gets a little bit heavier. And then farther north in the Great Plains that you see there Saturday morning, that is the low pressure system there that's just behind the banner. You see a lot of the heavier rain showing up towards the Ohio River Valley. The fact that this low is so far north is really, I think, going to help mitigate the overall severe weather threat. But it will depend on, it's still going to depend on a number of factors, like the time of day, exactly how much moisture we receive, and how high the dew points are, stuff like that. We're still going to have to figure out. But it's the possibility is still there, and you see how that warm front, or really this whole area that's to the east of the cold front and south of the warm front is called the open warm sector. And the fact that it's so large is why the risk area is so large as compared to last weekend, where that risk area was confined from the coast really up to the I-85 corridor. That's why this one is so large.
Yeah, exactly. So we already have that unstable air that storms need for basically fuel to tap into. That's already going to be in place. And now we just look for a trigger. A storm to fire off in the kind of atmosphere we have most likely would turn severe. So we have those other parameters in place. We've got the dynamics. We've got the shear for sure. That's going to be in place. We just need a trigger. All it's going to take are 1 or 2 storms to fire off that become supercellular, that move into Alabama. Most likely would be from Mississippi, and that's what you've got. So we're trying to, guys, what we're trying to do is kind of give you a broad overview, because everyone's asking about, well, what about this place? What about that place? It's hard to pinpoint exact threats and exact timing right now. 2 days out, it just is. We're kind of giving you the broad overview of what we expect to happen here over the next couple of days.
And what I can tell you, like right off the bat, this is going to be a slow-paced event.
Yes.
It's going to take a while for that cold front to actually pass through and for everything to be over. So it's one of those things where we're going to have to stay weather-aware for a long period of time, really starting early Saturday, potentially even into Sunday afternoon. We're just going to have to keep it in the back of our heads. Okay, if a warning pops up, I need to know where to be.
Yeah, exactly right. And the chances of severe weather are basically going to be, as far as Sunday goes, depending on how far south that front moves, because that front is expected to stall out and provide maybe a focus for more storms. So this is kind of the overview. Once again, we know the area looks pretty big, but it's all going to rely on the track of this area of low pressure right here, okay? So this is the track. Whatever happens with this thing, okay, on Sunday morning into the afternoon, wherever this thing ends up, that's basically what we have to look at for our chances of severe storms. So that will be the key for sure. As far as it looks right now, it will at least, that area of low pressure at least tracks close enough to us to provide that chance for severe storms. If it tracks a little bit farther to the south, we've got a little bit better chance. If it tracks farther to the north, it's going to mean a lot of snow for folks in the upper
Yeah,
Midwest,
the Great Plains.
but it's also going to mean a lower risk for severe storms for us.
Yeah. Yep, and there's the outlook will be confined over the next couple of days. That's just the reason it's broad now. We're still at day 3. So don't be surprised if you see the threat level go up. That's usually how the trends go with these Storm Prediction Center outlooks, is they'll kind of be more conservative with the forecast a couple of days in advance, and then as the confidence increases as we move closer to the event, they increase threat level because they know for sure, like, okay, we have a smaller area where we know we'll probably see severe storms, so don't be surprised if that slight risk becomes an enhanced risk. I kind of doubt it'll become a moderate risk, but that's just something to be aware of for the next couple of days. You might see it go up.
Yeah, exactly right. Want to get to this. Robert Howes, do you guys have stock in milk and bread? Is that why you're causing this hysteria? Well, Robert,
it's not a snow event.
Yeah. Well, number one, it's not a snow event, but I don't know if the people down in Lee County, the 23 people that died, would have not appreciated some updates before those tornadoes. So let's be careful about us trying to cause hysteria, and don't get it confused with us trying to warn people and keep people alert up to a severe weather event, because this is serious stuff. We're not doing this to play around. We do this when it's serious. We do this when we think people need to be updated and keep themselves safe. So, I don't like... there's a time to be funny, but sometimes it's, not a time to be funny, especially given the events of Sunday. So
as we get into March and April, but it gets more likely.
Yeah. And when we get into later into March, into April and May, this is going to be stuff that we have to hopefully not have to talk about on a weekly basis, but we might have to. It just so happens that this has been 3 weeks in a row where we've had damaging, deadly tornadoes. The first, 2 weeks ago in Columbus, Mississippi, last Sunday in Lee County, and then this week. I'm not saying it's going to be the same, but all the hallmarks are there that we could have some severe storms. So we take this stuff very, very seriously. So
for sure.
What we're going to do is we're going to have a updated forecast post on our website, cbs42.com, that myself and Griffin and our whole weather team, Sarah and Ashley, will update up to the event on Saturday. Hopefully it's something that we don't have to worry about, but if it is, of course, we're going to keep you updated, and be sure to stay tuned to Facebook Lives. Ashley will have some. I'm sure we'll have some going into the weekend as well, and of course, Griffin will be on air on Saturday morning, keeping you updated if anything changes in that risk. If we have to, sound the alarm bells. If we don't, that's something that we'll do here over the next couple of days, and of course, Griffin will have all the latest for you on Saturday morning. So please be watching. Be up to date, stay alert. Everybody, make sure you've got several different ways to get weather information here over the next couple of days. Our CBS 42 weather app is a great way to do that. It's free right now. All the live interactive radar you can want, weather alerts, whenever a tornado warning or watch or anything gets issued for your area, that thing goes off. And then, of course, all the weather information, all of our daily forecasts, and of course the updated severe weather outlook will be updated there as well.
Yep. I'm sure the people of Lee County would attest to this. Just if a warning pops up, just ask yourself, where am I going to go? That's just the simplest, easiest thing you can do, whether it be a bathtub, a closet. There were people down in Lee County who climbed into the bathtub, and that ended up saving their life. And that's sometimes all it takes. The difference between life and death, it can be a couple 100 feet. That's about it. But just make sure you stay in weather wear this weekend.
Yes, indeed. All right, guys, y'all take it easy. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you back here on Facebook Live eventually. And make sure to stay tuned and stay weather aware, everybody.